Much like the elites and our overlords, women have the ethics of rats and hyenas when it comes to revenge. And in the midst of their endeavors of revenge, anything goes. I'm sure you've heard the saying, all is fair in love and war. Well, there really isn't a difference for women oftentimes. And you might think otherwise, but I would say that you're either in a very, very, very healthy relationship that is a 1 in a billion type of relationship, or you're just very not experienced. And the likelihood of the latter is being more so is to definitely be the case. So what I want to help people understand and educate properly is when it comes to the understanding of why women act this way is because women see time differently than men. Women don't perceive timelines in the same way that women perceive timelines all the time. And the reason for that is because women are hyper aware of their moment to moment experience. This is why women's emotions can outdo any type of logic internally. This is why women can hold, on average, more contradictive perceptions and rules of logic in their minds, because they only want to have certain logic frameworks when it benefits them in that moment. And this is not to hate women or anything like that, okay? I have to say that freaking disclaimer all the time, because the new people, I don't say it for the people of Regal Change who are Regal Change veterans, but for the people who are new, they might be like, oh, whoa, oh, so you hate women? No, I don't hate women. I just don't really like what they've become. Like, I love women. I just don't like what they've become, because they incessantly aim to dehumanize men when it comes to men trying to have certain types of boundaries that are healthy for the relationship to thrive. And I mean, I see this time and time again, and I see the blatant disrespect of women out and about in my community all the time. And it's because I'm not a player. I would consider myself more of a sex symbol than I am a player. And I'm not necessarily saying that it's good to be that, because I'm celibate, of course. But it's better to be a sex symbol than it is to be a player. And the reason that this is the case is because the sex symbol is a more mature version of the player, so to speak. But the player, he bends forwards and frontwards and backwards and every which way he can just to have women around him, whereas the sex symbol can't really get rid of the women. The sex symbol can't get rid of women, like, because here's the thing, right? Women know that if they left me alone, it would almost make me more happy. And that's why they they want to be around me. And I'm not saying this to flex either. This is not a flex at all. This is simply a matter of fact, because when you become the type of man who has put in a certain amount of work in himself to be in a mindset of godlike mastery, this is where you end up. This is just where you end up. And so women will likely do anything and everything that they can if they feel wronged by you. Again, it's you probably didn't even do anything wrong. You might have even just stood up for yourself, and that was just too much for them to handle, right? And if they're unhealthy, that is, if they're unhealthy and they're women and they're going to try to take revenge on you in any way that they can, they're going to do anything and everything possible. Like, I'm sure you've also heard the saying that there's no, what's the term exactly? What's the phrase? It says something like, nothing like a woman scorned or something like that. That's for sure, okay? Because women, when they feel like you've wronged them and they want revenge, they will do anything and everything to do so. They are way more relentless. And you know how I know this? because I've seen this time and time again, and I've seen too many of these like TikToks and Instagram reels and all that crap where women openly get abortions because they feel like the man, like, and then they tell the man who wanted to have a child, they tell the man that she got an abortion or that the baby just died and was strangled by the umbilical cord, right? And the man breaks down and she's laughing at him because she now feels like, now you know how I feel. Women will literally kill their own children for the sake of making a man who she feels has wronged him suffer. That's crazy. That is lunacy. These are the same types of people that have the same amount of voting privileges as you do, men. Most men, I don't think I ever, like, men can be pretty cruel, right? When it comes to the psychopathic men out there and the narcissistic men, they can be pretty damn cruel. But I don't really know of an example that is as common in men that it is in women, where women will openly kill their babies just to get back at the men that they feel have wronged them. That's insane. This is crazy stuff, and that's exactly what most men don't want to admit this stuff. Okay, and I've just gotten to the point to where I've seen too much that I can't ignore this anymore. I can't pretend like women are these fairy tale creatures, because I've had women who are married try to get with me. I've had women who are in relationships try to get with me. I've blatantly seen the disrespect that women will give to their men in front of them while looking at me, acting as if like she's giving me a look, right? She's giving me this like let's make something happen kind of a look, when her man is right there. Okay, this kind of stuff is way more potent for the man who is a sex symbol than it is for the player. The player, he'll get rejected all the time, and of course he's going to sleep with lots of women because that's his aim, right? Because at the end of the day, women really are, if you're just trying to sleep with them, women are just a numbers game. But if you want a real relationship, you can't find this. Like, you can't find this woman. I'm convinced that there is no right woman. I'm convinced that there is no the one. You're going to have to create that relationship that you want. You can't find it. You have to create it. And the more that you focus on trying to create it, the more you're going to be able to see that there's just not a lot of women that have something to offer. There just isn't. And it's not that, again, it's not that I hate women. I just don't really like what they've become. I don't really like that. I feel as though, like, it's not even like I feel, right? It's more like they want me to be a lion. And then when I'm a lion, they want to try to put me in a cage to keep me tame. And I'm thinking to myself, why do I have to be put in a cage after the lion that I became? Now you're trying to keep what I became tamed away and locked away, because and you're going to lose attraction for that lion eventually anyway. Why do you do this? Like, why do you think and insist and persist in this insistence upon trying to cage a man? Because I'm also convinced that a man cannot truly be a man if he does not have his autonomy. It's just not going to work. If a man doesn't have some kind of form of autonomy, he loses his virility, he loses his masculinity, and he loses his whole function of being, because he cannot be independence of himself. Because although independence means a lot to the lion, he's got to be able to still be strong, right? He's got to be able to still be the man and the lion that he needs to be. He has to have that godlike mastery mindset. And if you refuse to have the ability to walk away from situations, or you can't walk away from situations, of course, there are going to be some instances where, yeah, like you're going to have no other option but to face the adversity. But in most cases, we always have some kind of form of choice. Actually, I don't even say in most, because in all situations we have a choice. But this goes back to the way that we see time. Women don't always know that they're on a timeline moving into timelessness, which is God, that they can actually choose to move toward timelessness. Women are so focused on the present. Like, the way that I see it is, one of the reasons women are highly intuitive is because they are only intuitive to the external happenings in the immediate time that they're in. Whereas men, we can branch out with the logic, right? We can see the bigger picture with the logic side of us. And so we can, it takes a true godlike mastery level mindset to be able to establish what's going on in the actual environment as well as the long term. Because that's really the difference between intuition and instinct to some degree. Women have the more intuitive side, men have the more instinctual side. And I don't like the fact that women are always trying to get me to try to pursue that which I don't want to pursue. And they're trying to always get something more from, like, they just want our life force energy. That's really all that it is, right? They just want our energy because I'm convinced, guys, for most women, in fact, if not all women, and yes, I'm going to be that hyperbolic, they just want your semen. Like, I'm convinced they just want your life force energy. That's all that they want. They just want your semen. I mean, haven't you ever noticed that the women, like on Bonely cans or that are on all these different types of, they're just kind of, sluts. Let's just leave it at that. They're kind of sluts. And they're not even whores, because a whore, in my view, whores do that kind of stuff for money, whereas sluts just do it because they're sluts. And they just enjoy being filthy, right? But the thing is that we men, we can look at a woman who maybe has that kind of barbaric side of herself, but we would be willing to look past all of that barbaricness if we saw that she would be loyal to us. Because we as men, we want that paternity, right? We don't want the woman to get an abortion just because she wants to get back at something that we might have or might have not done. We don't want that. Women will do crazy things to try to get at men for their feelings. And so men, we see time differently. We see time in a more, not necessarily abstract way, but women are basically hallucinating through time. I'm convinced of this. Women are hallucinating through time. And it's not to say that they are, like, that hallucination isn't real, because most of reality is a hallucination anyway. Like, consciousness, I don't know. It's the more I contemplate the Regal timeline theory, and again, for those that are Regal change veterans here, you're going to understand what I'm saying because you're caught up to date on what's happening with the Regal timeline theory. But with the Regal timeline theory, it's like it simply is the case that when it comes to women and men and the way that they perceive time, it's going to be based on a perception of experience, no matter what, no matter who it is, right? No matter who it is, it's going to be a perception of experience. But with everything in life altogether, this is like a hallucination that is not really a hallucination. The shared hallucination, the shared perspective, which doesn't make it less real, the shared perception, hallucination, whatever you want to call it, the shared perception of reality is what reality is. Because you don't exist without the relationship, you exist within the relationship. The relationship is what exists. And so that's why women don't really see life like that. They don't always see life. That's why they're drawn to our spirituality as men. That's why they're drawn to our semen. Because they know that they need that life force. This is not, when the Bible says in the Corinthians, it goes, the Father, Jesus Christ, man, woman, child. That's not a patriarchal thing. Like, it's not a religious thing either. It's a reality of experiencing reality. That's exactly what that is. And that's why I genuinely think for most people, if they do not understand the reality of the reality, or the hallucination that is reality, because that's why women are so like hyper independent and all that stuff. That's why they're so barbaric nowadays, is because they've completely let go of that structure of the masculine. And they've chosen like poison. Have you ever thought about poison and why poison is like a woman's weapon? Well, it's because it's a psychological and spiritual disruption, using different ways and tools to kill off their psychophysiology, or psychophysiological structure, which is the organism and your whole genome as a whole. But it's almost as if that because women are not as physically strong, they have to resort, well, it's not even almost as if, it is, that women, because they're not as physically strong, they resort to these other ways and modes of being if they choose violence. Because men and women both have violence, but the way that we perceive violence is very different. And with the brute force, like, brute force can happen very quickly. And you get to see who's the boss pretty dang quick, and there's going to be potential damages that completely disrupt life eternally, right? For, well, at least in this physical body that we have. And it could affect you eternally, I suppose, but that's another story for another time. But with women, it's psychological warfare. So they are using outside timelines to try to manipulate the current timeline. And that's what gaslighting is. That's what manipulation is. And that, I'm just saying that that's their form of violence. Not all women are like this, of course, because we have to use the disclaimer. But again, it's just that most women nowadays really, who are not mature, they resort to this type of stuff and behavior because that's all that they know. That's all that they know how to do and why they do. And they do this because they want to have a sense of power. When women feel truly powerless, they will do barbaric things. And it's not even that they are powerless. They just feel that way. So be mindful of this type of stuff out there. Be mindful of the depths of which women will go to, because this is why I'm so careful with who I interact with nowadays with women, because I've had an experience in the past where I found out a woman was married after like 2 months of talking to her, 1 or 2 months of talking to her. This was years ago. And I broke it off. I was genuinely thinking that this woman was going to be like my wife someday. And it turns out she had a whole family and husband at home. And when I found that out, I just, I steered clear. And yet she was the one that tried to get me arrested because of certain things. And thank God the cops didn't show up or anything like that. But that was crazy. That was insane. That was an insane experience for me, because it just opened my eyes about how even if women feel rejected and they have a whole fucking family at home, they already have everything that they could have wanted. If they feel rejected, they will do terrible things to you if you don't know how to handle it properly. Because this is why it's important to understand that if you're a man who is becoming a sex symbol or are a sex symbol, you have to recognize that there are women that will do terrible things to try to get your semen. They will do terrible things, and if they can't do it, then they're going to do even worse and barbaric things. So be mindful out there, be cautious. And with all that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful for you. If you're going through a relationship or you just want to talk more levels about this deep consciousness modality and the theme in general, because we go deep here on these topics, right? There's nothing that I talk about that isn't looking at it from a deeper lens. And I'm glad that people recognize this. I'm glad that people are seeing this. So with all that being said, hope everybody stays blessed. Sign up for a one-on-one or consider my Godlike Master Initiation program or join the RCA. All of the links are in the description box below. Peace be with you all. Until next time.